Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Shweta, and if you have clicked on this video, that means you need information on the immigration services from India to Korea. Well, we'll keep this video very concise, although there is a lot of information to share, but I'll try to keep it concise as much as possible. So, starting from the flight, I flew from Mumbai to Korea via Delhi. So, my flight for Korea started from Delhi, so I had to reach Delhi. Once I reached Delhi, from there I'll start. At the Delhi International Airport, there were two forms given to us, yellow and white. Both were same form. It's just the xerox of each other. So these forms had informations. The information asked in these forms were home address, my origin city, my origin telephone number, like home telephone number, my destination city, which was Seoul for me, and the quarantine address or the destination address, and work or school information. For me, it was Seoul National University. So with this information, along with your passport and visa information, like which visa are you going on. So with this information, you are allowed to get inside the airport. As soon as you enter the airport, there would be a security guard sitting next to the gate who would take the one of the forms and stamp into it, and then you'll have to move ahead. Once you move ahead, we finish the check-in process, and once the check-in is done, we go to the immigration officer. At the immigration office, disposal, what we give them is this passport, your e-visa. For Korea, they've started with e-visa, so you make sure that you take the printout of the visa. I'm sure you would definitely, but still I'm trying to mention it. So along with that, if you have any quarantine itinerary, it's actually it's important, not if they're that much important, but if you can keep it handy, it's really helpful whenever you go to any particular officers or for these check-in processes. So for me, I gave him the itinerary also, and he just asked me a couple of questions. That was what was my purpose of visit to this country, and how long am I going to stay, and do I go, if I go there, will I have any quarantine or not. So these are the primary questions that would be asked to you, but there were a couple of my friends who were asked questions like, why do you want to go there? I mean, we have very good institutions in India. So make sure you have some reasonable answers for it. I wasn't asked, but a couple of them were asked. So make sure that you have some reasonable answer. Moving on, once this immigration process hardly took me like 5 minutes when I reached up to him, and he took my photos and the regular stuff, and then he moved me back. So this was the immigration process in India. Once we boarded the flight, and the sanitization in the flights were very good, although my flight was a charter flight, it wasn't a commercial Indian flight because it's not flying. So we were asked to carry our own PPE kits if we want. So I carried a shield and a mask for myself, and the sanitizers that we have. The overall flight took 7.5 hours, which was quite relaxing. It wasn't very tedious flight for I would say it was a smooth flight. We started in time and we reached in time. Once we reached Korea, there are a lot of things that you'll have to keep in mind. However, the process is very smooth. So, couple of things to keep in mind, out of which is quarantine address. That is immensely helpful and needed. Okay, so quarantine make sure for people who are coming for the first time, you'll have to have a quarantine address and a local guardian. So both these things are really important. So make sure that you arrange it beforehand. Don't wait for the last minute, because it's really difficult to find a quarantine place in Korea because of the government restrictions. We can make a separate video on that if you want, but I just wanted to press this point so much, so that it is really important here. Once that is done, then the next point, which is really important, is the COVID asymptomatic certificate. So for the students or for the folks who are coming for the first time to Korea, they don't necessarily need it, although it's good to keep it handy, but it's not needed. And please ensure that these rules keep on changing depending on the situation. So if it is with you, it's absolutely beneficial. So these asymptomatic certificates are needed like 48 hours. You have to have them for within the 48 hours of your commencement of the journey. So for right now, we came for the first time, so it wasn't needed, COVID and asymptomatic certificate. But for the people who are re-entering the country, for them it is absolutely necessary right now as well. So make sure that you get your COVID asymptomatic certificate from the registered medical center that they have listed on the Korean website. If not, then you can get it from any other medical center. But it's always good to get it from their registered ones, just in case, to be sure of. So that's that. And a third important thing is your cash. So I'm sure you must be wondering about how to take these conversions. So I took conversion from my local agent in Mumbai, and he gave me a good deal. Depending upon the current rate, you try to find it. I think it is absolutely important for you to carry cash, although you won't be using it for the 14 days, but for your traveling and for your basic purposes, basic necessities, it is absolutely important to have cash with you. For me, I came for the first time, so I didn't have Korean number, Korean bank account, so I preferred carrying cash with myself. And yeah, it was helpful for me. The next thing is the absolutely important things that you wouldn't be able to forget is passport and visa. So I would suggest that keep it in an envelope with you, all these documents, so that because you will be using them so frequently that you may lose it inside your bag, and you can get panicked at any moment. So keep that in handy. And if you're staying at some hotel or any sort of accommodation, just carry the itinerary of your quarantine location. So the itinerary would just consist of your address and the period of stay and the number of your local guardian. So yeah, that's really important. Once you before you land into Korea, you'll be given 4 forms. Two forms are health forms. One is a custom declaration, and the fourth one is an arrival card. So arrival card is only for the first timers who come to Korea. It won't be for the re-entry people. Form 1 and Form 2 are the really important forms, and that you cannot skip. So these 2 forms consist of information related to your quarantine address, local guardian, your Korean number, your passport, date of birth, your gender information, and your purpose of visit, like if it's on a D2 visa, you're going to school, or which work, what kind of work you're going to do there, just visa related information, not specifically what work you're doing there. So that information you have to repeat on both the forms, okay? And out of which, the one primary information that is really important for you to note down is, in that form you will be asked what sort of quarantine address you are going to stay on. So if it is a hotel, if accommodation, it's a home accommodation, it is government facility, or it's others. So I have heard from a couple of people, don't quote me on that Airbnbs are not recognized. However, currently I'm staying in an Airbnb. What you have to do is just check the home accommodation over there and give the address of your BNBs. And I don't think so it's illegal, because a lot of my exchange students from different countries also are staying in Airbnb, and none of them have reported any problems as such. So but still I wanted to bring it up because somebody told me that it is a problem. I just checked the home and then I went ahead and gave the home address. As soon as you land up in Korea, you have to download a self quarantine app, which is readily available in the QR codes. You can just scan the QR code and download it. Fill your basic information related to name, nationality, and so on. Then you move ahead. There's a guy, Korean Army personnel, who will actually scan your temperature, write it down on the form, one of those forms, and move you ahead. Then you will be given with quarantine cards. The quarantine cards are again, you'll have to fill the quarantine address and go local guardian. So these information, are repetitive that you have to fill. Then you will be moved to another counter, which is really important again, because this guy will be calling your local guardian number. So make sure that you wake him up, or inform him prior, before you reach Korea, that you will be asked to verify me. So this local guardian will verify you whether you're staying on that address, and that address should be easily recognizable on the GPS, because this address, they will find it on GPS and only then they will let you further. So after that counter, he doesn't ask that much. He'll just call the local guardian and say, this person, is he staying with you on the quarantine period? He'll say yes. Okay, then move further. That's it. Nothing to scare about. And then once you move ahead to the next counter, that person will again verify your quarantine address, and then he'll basically discuss the rules with you of the quarantine. And then you move ahead to the immigration officer. Then the immigration officer again checks your GPS, again checks your destination address or quarantine address on the GPS and verifies it, and takes your fingerprints, your photo, and then you're moved further. So this is the entire immigration process. Once you leave, with your bag, once you take away your bag, there'll be people outside the airport who will be standing there for the taxi services. Okay, so make sure for the first time that you're coming, if you're coming with a group, it's fine, but you're coming like me alone, or with one or two people, then try to take the taxi service. It's absolutely convenient. So once you leave the airport itself, there will be a lot of people flocking around. They'll just stick a red sticker on you and then direct you towards one of the counters where you're supposed to go, like city wise they are differentiated. So I was directed towards counter number 7. Counter number 7 was for Seoul, and she asked me to pay around 67,600, which is a standard fees, by the way. So as soon as you arrive in Korea, within first 3 days, you'll have to get the first COVID test done. That's the reason it's really important if you take the taxi, because if you take the bus, bus wouldn't take you to the COVID center. So taxi, this driver can easily take you to the destination address after your COVID test. So the COVID test was very smooth. I can make a separate video because otherwise it will be a very long video. So this guy took me to the COVID center, which was a very smooth process, and I did my COVID test, and I came, and in the same cab again I came back to the quarantine address. So this is the entire process that I started up with the quarantine, from the arrival of me at Korea, as well as reaching up to the quarantine. It is really important. If you want me to elaborate more on how I managed to get this quarantine, and anything related to the COVID test, please drop a comment in the comment section and I'll be happy to make it.